think everyone
Say that again. You guys can adjust that how you need it.
Thank you.
Of their pumps here, or is she going to do something, or does she
Yeah.
have somebody coming to test?
We're not totally sure what this is going to look like quite yet.
Okay. I was just curious.
Let me run in and check with our water guy.
Because I didn't know if like he's going to scoop some water out. I mean, I don't know how.
let me go check on that, and I'll get you some answers.
Okay, thank you.
All right, I'll be right back, y'all.
Thank you. She said, yeah.
Let's see. Yeah.
Yeah.
You give me 1 second, we go to give me a super quick mic check.
Yep.
I'll turn something at 5:45.
Can you do that real quick?
All right. Mic check for everybody. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Again, actually, I'll stand up. This is probably exactly her height. I don't know.
I'm 5'10", yes.
Yeah, so you should be over here.
Oh.
I'm like 5'9".
Is everyone good? Check, check, check. Check 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Check, check, check. We all good?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, we go through the
Good to see you again.
How are you?
Good, how are you?
Good.
Awesome. Guys, we have just given her a 5-minute warning, which means it'll be 15 minutes before she's out here. She was only supposed to talk to residents for an hour, and she's been in there for over 2. So, if you've been covering this at all, you know this is how Erin operates.
So she has apparently been inside the restaurant talking about it.
Yeah.
Can we get any of that, just B-roll?
No, I'm sorry. We're doing it private. Yeah, this is her working trip, so. Also, is Dave here? Is Dave here? Dave? Unless I'm saying my name.
All right, thank you,
No, you're cool. This will be fine. Yeah, back here.
Justin, he's very loud. My ears are still recovering from last week at Duty Day. Right. I just got my hearing back yesterday.
Then we did that the other day at EPA.
I just spoke to someone to ask the question. So did you run?
We're not going to.
Everybody else? The old man on the bed. Is there anything you would like to add?
What was funny was when I got home from Rudy, my daughter was sitting at home watching a show at 5 o'clock. And I mean, it took me and here's the and look at the my question to Buddha, and then he answered, and I go in and I look at my daughter and I know.
My son, officially made it. Both of my sons are in the military, so when I'm overseas, he said everybody that is camping.
Mary Ann Group.
So what's the only thing about, or the one negative thing about what you do? What are you doing out there at all? Or you tell your family you're working on evidence?
Now, does this mean that things coming out? Another one of my
it's not a fire. It looks like a fire. It looks like fire. Okay. It's not a fire.
Because we've seen it near where the derailment happened.
Exactly. I've seen it every time we're over there. We see one. Either it or one's just like it going through the.
So it's just a big tank.
Yeah, I mean, if you read on the side of it, this is not a municipal fire. It's not a municipal fire.
It's a misfunctioning Chinese fighter.
All this is created in the ground of blue.
That's actually a malfunctioning Chinese fighter.
Yeah, that was around here the other day.
Yeah, it's been all over.
Another mic check. 1, 2, 3. We're good. Okay.
Because the moment you walk in front of it, it's wrong.
You need it. Yeah, sure. All right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Cool.
You should have just been straight. The newspaper was talking.
Well, last week during the day we had parties on it.
Oh,
So that was fun. But she did have cookies. She made it work. Yep. The same day too.
yeah. Well, yeah, sometimes it's the same day.
Yep. Yeah. Not too cold.
About how long you think this is
I think she needs to book her around. We want to make sure everybody.
So, if you want more water or ice, let it off for a while. Okay.
No.
It's the very last street on the left. The left side. And then the left side. That's growing up. I was first.
Y'all, we're gonna try to do this in a as organized fashion as we can. So we're gonna give Marianne with the Columbiana County News, the first question, and the Youngstown team will give you second question, and then we'll kind of proceed out from there.
We're one and then
All right, fight it out.
rock, paper,
There you go.
Go 2 and 3, that way we know we'll answer.
Great, yeah, 2, 3, and we're hoping to give like 20-ish minutes, so we want to make sure y'all get your questions in, but that way we kind of have a clear order to start, and then feel free.
Yeah.
Start at 1:30.
We're gonna start hopefully in the next 5 to 10 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah.
You go second.
Thank you guys. Appreciate the cooperation. The shouting, yeah, can be overwhelming.
It's not our favorite part of it.
No, I'm sure.
What?
I can't.
I saw it sagging and I was like,
Clay was shot in my hand. You actually took the wrong shot. I don't know. I didn't do that. That's good.
Can you have her, like, before we ask questions, can you have her set the scene and just kind of tell us where she was and what she was doing before that?
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thanks.
She's going to go first. First, and that's the big thing. One goes through the University of well, this is second goal. That is the letter because I only went down to the second goal of that.
It's straight. It's going to be old channel
Oh, God, I hope not.
Yeah. You do a mic check for us?
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. She's a little taller than me. 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Am I good? Great.
One more question.
Absolutely. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Making sure you can see my shot. 3.
I've never been looking at one because I've been known about it all my 63 years. And I look close enough, but I did do it. But my sister's in California, so
Any feedback? Can you see me at all? I'm talking into the array of microphones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Thank you.
So, are these on? Yes. All right, now I'll tell you what to tell you. So, Erin is going to be coming down in just a minute. She's putting in some eye drops. The fumes from the chemicals are bothering her. So, Bob is going to talk to you guys first about everything going on, and then we'll have Erin come down for just a minute, okay? She is going to be really tight in her comments, and I'm sorry for that. but she's just not feeling well. She's had so many chemical exposures that this is one of those things that really affects her. So, Bob, I'm going to totally let you introduce yourself, give your spiel,
Okay.
talk about whatever you want to talk about, and then...
Yeah, I'll take questions too more than anything else. So I'm the environmental investigator. I've been working with Erin Brockovich for over 25 years now, investigating these cases. Been literally several hundred times across this country on very similar cases. I don't know if you heard my presentation when Erin and I were here the last time. This is very much like a train spill of the similar chemical in upstate New York. And that happened in 1970, and the federal government is still working on the cleanup. The final remediation plan for that cleanup in upstate New York is due August 2024. So that's a real confidence builder when you come to a community like this and you actually have lunch with we just met with a number of families here who've been absolutely devastated. They've had to move their businesses out of town, their homes out of town, their children out of town. And what's been the response? The railroad sent in a cleanup crew that came in with commercial grade organic Lysol, and they disinfected the homes. That's about as pathetic as it gets. The response is absolutely out of control. Nothing is going right in any way, shape, or form. If you look behind me here, they're actually aerating a creek. Where do you think those chemicals are going in an aeration process? They are literally going back up into the air and recontaminating these people. This is not something that happened overnight. This is something that's ongoing. They're literally taking the chemicals from this creek and reintroducing them into the air 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for 3.5 weeks. Actually, tomorrow will be the 4th week. So this is not a emergency situation. This is an ongoing pollution and contamination of this community. And the fact that they have to continue to endure it, it's a concentrated site where this is occurring today, but for those of you that have driven around town, you'll see this going on in virtually every creek. There's one right up here across the street from the high school. They're doing it all around town. There are some type of a night burn that are actually going on down at the rail site that we have videotapes of. It's very distressing to see that this is how it's going to continue. So with that, I'll take some questions.
Have you done air testing at all to document any tangible documentation of what is in the air as a result of the aeration?
Okay, so what you're seeing out there, and this goes along the lines of, I got to think of a really good adjective that I'm so frustrated I can't come up with one, but it's kind of like they're placating the community, okay? And so these air tests where you see people go in with those little yellow boxes and they do a sniffer, that's not going to detect anything. Those are designed for people entering confined spaces to where the level of chemicals so high you suffocate, okay? Chronic exposure that causes cancer are at very low levels. We are getting data right now. I don't know if you read the work that was done by Texas A&M and the university that came up from there, and the testing that was done by Carnegie Mellon. The inventor of that equipment's on the cell phone right there. So he and I are going to be going around taking those tests over the next 10 days. Yes, sir.
You mentioned what's being done here. Yesterday, we had the opportunity to talk with the Ohio EPA director.
Yes.
Who explained the process of aerating, then churning the creek bed and vacuuming off what comes up that would be contaminating the creek. Are you in effect saying that the state doesn't know what it's doing in cleaning up the creek? Because they're taking it off, they say vacuuming it, putting it in those blue tanks. What you're suggesting is the state, which is overseeing this cleanup, doesn't seem to know what it's doing.
I would say the remediation response from the state and the federal government has been less than expected and less than standard. I don't know how he's vacuuming it off, because the aeration, I can see the water right there. That's water coming in contact with the air. Now, if they're vacuuming chemicals off the bottom, great. That would be fine. But the aeration process, the reason they're running those what look like sprinklers, they're fire nozzles up into the air, what that's doing is that's separating the chemical from the water and putting it into the air. I don't know how you vacuum that off.
Their argument is they aerate it first, then churn the creek bed. The aeration, they say, speeds the biological process of breaking up the compounds, and then churn up the creek bed to stir up what's there, because they know there's contamination in the creek bed. Stir that up. When it comes to the surface, they vacuum it off.
Right.
So again, you're saying that's not the way
I don't know how they're vacuuming it off. The fire sprinklers or the fire nozzle is pretty clear to me. You know, I don't know what they're vacuuming off. And if they're anticipating increasing biological activity, that's not the way you do it either. So I haven't heard his explanation in order to counter it specifically. It's a she, yeah.
The director of the EPA saying this, so you're saying...
I'm saying
what
I
the
disagree.
Ohio EPA is doing is wrong.
Yes. Yes, quite clear.
Marianne, please.
Marianne. From
Yes, ma'am.
the Morning Journal, the local newspaper here.
Uh-huh.
The officials have been saying that the water is safe to drink here in the village. What are you finding? And can you explain a little bit about how you're finding what you're finding?
Right. I believe that the community drinking water system is not yet contaminated. Okay. And it will take some time to get there. I do believe that it's going to get there sooner than we anticipated. And so I have asked that they consider installing the treatment equipment that would be prescribed for that type of contamination ahead of the contamination reaching there.
I know they said they've installed monitoring wells.
Okay.
Something that can catch the contaminants.
It won't catch it, but it'll indicate that it's on its way. Okay. And so what I would prescribe for that situation is I would put that type of treatment equipment at the wells now. The worst thing that's going to happen, it's going to improve the overall water quality, and then when the chemicals do reach the well, they'll be prepared for it. It's not something you put in overnight. That type of treatment equipment has got a long lead time.
What kind of a time frame are you talking?
Well, in drinking water treatment in this country right now, there's a lot of competition with the perfluorinated compounds, and so that treatment equipment is the exact same treatment equipment that would be prescribed for here. So right now we're looking at lead times of about 12 months for just the equipment.
I mean, as far as how soon the chemicals, contamination.
You know, that's something that we're working on. It's the state has basically said that there is zero protection. Okay, the aquifer is very shallow here. It is very sandy here, and because of this activity that's here, somehow through the creek system, that chemical's migrated over here. The wells are literally right over here. The drinking water wells are all adjacent to each other right over here. And so there are ways you can do hydraulic groundwater models underground to kind of see when it's going to happen. You know, if it had been all isolated over at the spill site, we would have been talking in years. With the creek system here, we're talking months.
So if you would not prescribe this solution, what type of solution would you like to see here? What would you like to see happen here?
Well, they could do this all internal as opposed to external like they're doing it now. They could pump this water off and put it into, you know, collection systems. It sounds like that's what they're saying that they're doing somehow.
I think those are the collection containers over there.
Okay, the rain for rent systems. You heard me describe, well, for those of you that heard me talk,
Go ahead, I interrupted, but you can answer the question.
Yeah, so it would be an internal type system. Okay, when you look at this, it's external. It's clearly right here in the air, okay? That's aeration by definition. I mean, if they're bringing that water back and they just want to put that water back in the creek, why would they aerate it back on its way back in? So for me looking at it, when I described the solution last time, I literally said you could put a header in the top of those tanks, put upside down sprinklers, do the aeration there, and then do off-gas GAC. I don't see an off-gas system over there, so I don't know what they're doing in that tank.
It's Bob, right?
Yes.
Bob, I don't think we got your last name.
Oh, Bocock, B-O-W-C-O-C-K.
B as in boy?
B as in boy. Yep, sorry about that. Did that answer your question? So you do it in a contained location. The other thing I'd like to see, they're aerating these surface water bodies. What they need to do is where they put that burn pit, they need to go over to that burn pit and they need to put in groundwater wells and create another what we call cone of depression where you pump a lot of water at a high velocity, you develop a cone of depression where the water will actually go towards that well and that'll pull the contamination in that direction. If they go over there, start sucking that water out and treating it like this, they'll keep the cone of depression over there and it's less likely to go to those wells over there.
And that's where the train tracks are right now.
Yeah,
right? That's
yeah.
where the train tracks are going over.
Yeah, over at the site.
So specifically about the chemicals and the water compared to time. As time goes on, do the contaminants get less dangerous, or like are they expected to dissipate as they make their way over to potentially contaminating well water, or what's the situation?
There are a number of chemicals in this spill, and they will transport at different rates through the vadose zone and through the water. My concern, we can fix the drinking water. If it does reach the drinking water, even in very low levels, the type of system is very common to apply. It's literally with the vinyl chloride, you would do an air stripping process followed by a granular activated carbon polish to get all the other organic material out of the water. So I'm not as concerned about that. I think we can fix the community drinking water system very, very quickly. The problem that's going to be in this community for a very, very long time is as those chemicals float in the aquifer and they go underneath this community, every one of these homes here has a basement. And they're going to start experiencing what they call soil vapor intrusion. There's cracks in those basements. Some of these basements have sump pumps. And that's how those chemicals get into the houses. They get into the houses at very low concentrations. You know, we're hearing in the community, people smell the chemicals. Some days they don't, things change. You know, there's different levels of exposure. You're hearing that all over the place. The weather patterns around here have an incredible effect on that. 10 years from now, those soil vapor plumes are still going to be coming up in those houses. They change with barometric pressure outside. They change with rainfall and precipitation, acting like a hypodermic needle and pushing those chemicals up into the basements. So that's my bigger concern as the long term goes forward.
I know that.
Yes.
I know that I spoke to someone a few days ago that had a very similar issue to what you're describing.
Uh-huh.
They live in one of the older homes in town, and they were having an issue with like the water that was accumulating, the rainwater that was accumulating in the basement.
Right.
And this resident is just afraid for her children, not knowing whether or not they're being poisoned with the smell that they feel. Is that exactly?
That's exactly what I'm talking about. So it's going to come in two ways. It will come in the liquid phase with the water that accumulates in a sub basement. A lot of these homes have sump pumps. The water in the basement all goes to a corner, gets to a certain level, a float switch turns on, it evacuates it and sprays it outside. The good news about vinyl chloride, it's got a half-life of about 20 minutes. So it's not the kind of thing that's going to be persistent in air. The sun and the oxygen destroy it really quickly. It's when it gets trapped in the vadose zone. That's the area of soil between the top and the groundwater. And that stuff migrates, okay? And it sticks in the soil, and then the water goes down, and then the water goes back up, and it's like a giant tea bag, and it constantly recontaminates itself.
So is that something that the families are going to have to be prepared for in spurts intermittently for X amount of time?
Yes, and it's very common in these types of spills. Any of these chlorinated hydrocarbons or these vinyl chloride type, family of chemicals, you'll see that they have soil vapor issues associated with virtually all of them.
And I have a question. Norfolk Southern gave us some updated numbers today. They claim that they've removed about 2 million gallons of contaminated water. What is your evaluation of that number?
I read that. 200 million gallons of contaminated water. Was it with a cup of contaminated of VOC in it and then 200 gallons of water? Because that's all it takes is a little cup of water and 200 million gallons of water. Is this the 200 million gallons of water? It's very unusual. They're pumping water off actually up here by the high school. They're not actually aerating there. They're actually sucking it into tanks and taking it somewhere. Quite frankly, I don't know what that means. I don't know what the concentrations are. I know how many pounds of chemical were on those rail cars when they roared into town, and I know how many pounds of chemical are missing. So they should be talking about how many pounds of chemical they're taking out of the environment, not 200 million gallons of contaminated water. That doesn't mean anything to me.
Yeah, how important is it that they be transparent with the concentration of that water or performing analysis on that water that they're claiming to pump out?
They need to be extremely transparent. As far as I'm concerned, the railroad and the agencies should have a website up right now where every data point that they have is posted immediately. That's what's happening here is A, there's a complete lack of transparency, and B, the activities are basically done in a fashion as if they're like trying to fool the community into complacency. They literally, they sent out somebody, two guys with a mask from Home Depot, tanks on their back like they were spraying herbicide, and they went through the house and sprayed organic disinfectant all over the furniture. You don't disinfect vinyl chloride spill. You don't disinfect dioxin. You don't disinfect, any of these chemicals. I can't believe that they would do that. I think it was literally to lull the community into shutting up. And that's what's happening is it's degrading trust. So transparency, put those numbers on a website, get them up. People are going to have a hard time understanding them. what those numbers mean and what they are. But it's no different than the guy that walks into a house with one of those little OSHA sniffers and says, guess what? If you lay down on the floor, you will not suffocate. That tells me nothing, okay? But yet, for those of you that have read the report that came out of Texas A&M and that came out of Carnegie Mellon, they're detecting chemicals, okay? Because they did it right. They did it at the right concentration. Somebody asked about like the water samples over here, okay? You don't collect, I like AECOM. AECOM's a great engineering firm, but they're being criticized pretty heavily about taking these water samples. They didn't take them the right way, okay? You do not extract water samples like that for vinyl chloride testing. The reason? By the time they got the water in the bottle, the chemical was gone, okay? And so there's a way you test for vinyl chloride in water. That was not the way.
So the test that you're referring to from Texas A&M and Carnegie Mellon, Carnegie Mellon hasn't published the results of their test yet. I was expecting them yesterday. This is the explanation from Carnegie Mellon, that this is an analysis of existing data from the EPA that Texas A&M analyzed. So that wasn't the results of their own test. Carnegie Mellon hasn't published their test yet.
They haven't put their tests out?
No, I was expecting it yesterday, and they're delayed because they're looking at such a vast amount of information. They apologize that it's not out yet.
Okay. And I will get you the name of Heinz's piece of equipment too, because they did bring that piece of equipment here,
yes.
And I have seen those numbers.
Yeah, and I've been in touch pretty much daily with the professor who read today.
Oh, so you know what I'm talking about. Good. And, it's weird. There's a lot of secrecy about it, right?
But he said it's a lot of data, and they're being very, very careful about about getting this together and publishing it. So,
right.
So it's not out. It's not out yet.
Yeah.
Now, Purdue came to collect samples too. How important is it to have all of these different groups coming in and testing? I mean, is there ever too much testing when it comes to things like
There's
this?
not too much testing, but it does not go to a trust issue. It starts to get conflicting. I want to be very up and positive and welcome everyone's help. I think that's great. But it's not unlike the Flint situation, where at the end of the thing we had 50 different data sets and they counteract each other. A water quality or an environmental sample is as good as the moment you take it, okay? And so it's important to understand that there aren't online composite analyzers for any of these tests. They literally are taken for the second or the moment that you capture that test. And if you collect it properly, the water sample, I said, they didn't collect it properly, okay? The air sample, they're basically using, part per million OSHA equipment for suffocation. They're not using the low sensitive equipment that the Carnegie Mellon and the Texas A&M folks have. So it's great that they're coming, There are others in town too. You just named the 3 universities. There's a whole slew of people that are here doing testing and stuff like that. It can add to the confusion.
And you said that you saw the numbers from Carnegie and A&M. How do those numbers shape up against what the EPA has been telling us up until this point?
I'm not as concerned with the numeric values at this point in time. I'm concerned with the suite of chemicals that they're finding. I don't know that we have all the information as to what came out, and certainly we don't know what cocktail of chemicals went into that burn pit. We know it was predominantly vinyl chloride because those were the cars that were breached. Okay, how long did it sit there? How much seeped into the groundwater table or into the vadose zone during the burn? What did they turn into when they burned? What other stuff was mixed in there? That's where the transparency is lacking. Okay, you guys are hearing the same thing I'm hearing. You're seeing the same videos I'm seeing. What are those controlled burns that are going on out there still? What happened in the first 72 hours before they did the burn pit? I mean, we don't know. And those are the kinds of things that are going to always add to frustration in the chemistry.
I'm so sorry to do this.
Yep.
Not that you're not saying everything is fantastic. I just want to get Erin in very quickly.
Please. I would just do a stand-in. Erin.
Hi. How are you? So, do you have any questions?
Mary Andrew.
Hi.
Journal, the local newspaper.
Hi.
What are you hearing from residents? I know you met with some of the residents just now. What are some of the stories you're hearing, and what kind of pause does that give you for how things are being handled?
So, I've spent all morning with some of the residents, and I'm very upset
obviously they're very upset. I just could not believe the amount of information coming in that they have, that they want to share, that it seems like nobody is listening to. They are so afraid. They get so many mixed messages. They're getting a total runaround. They want help. They make a phone call. It goes to Norfolk. Then it says call EPA. EPA says call Norfolk. They don't know where to go. They want to leave. They don't have the means to leave. People aren't coming back. Their animals are sick. Their animals are dying. I've just seen pictures of them who go to their own doctor with holes in their throat, or they're being diagnosed with chemical respiratory illness, or these rashes that obviously look painful. Listen, this has been going on for 3 weeks since the initial crash. I think we're pushing a month now, actually, March 3rd. And yet nothing has really been done that is really giving them any kind of help or answer. It's so frustrating. It's classic cover-up in an environmental disaster and running the people around in hopes that they don't figure it out or we all go away and nobody's none the wiser, when they are literally going to be the sitting ducks here. They will be the sitting ducks that don't know their future, that are terrified. And the lack of mismanagement here is unbelievable. Everybody's seen the pictures. The pictures I was seeing up close, what was burning, the smells. It was very overwhelming to have such a close perspective today of what they went through. And I'm still absorbing, honestly, their fear and their turmoil. And I've been on a lot of environmental situations, and I've never seen anything in my life be so mismanaged, ever. You give an all clear, but yet you don't have any data, really, to prove that it is all clear. And then when the people come back and they tell you, I'm smelling stuff, we're sick, we're going to the emergency room, I can't breathe, they're just disregarded because everything is safe. It's obvious nothing is safe yet. And then when they come back, they're told, don't drink the water. But then that changed the next day. It's okay to drink the water. So it's safe, it's not. Drink the water, it's not. You're not really experiencing what you are, yet they're sick, yet they're going to the doctor. And every time they try to get answers to the EPA is deferring to Norfolk, the very fox that's in the hen house. So this is what upsets me. And it takes me all the way back to my days in Hinckley, California. We have another environmental disaster, another corporate cover-up. I'm sorry, something is not right here. Agency failures and a really great community of really great people that deserve answers. And not just leave them here sitting and guessing what their future will be. And getting this information takes time. You guys are around town, they're doing all this aeration that could be throwing chemicals into the air. You just had independent testing come out that shows it's in the air. And then EPA Director Regan says yesterday, maybe you should keep the kids away from there. Well, maybe you should have told us that 3 weeks ago because they've already been down here. It's just awful. And I have spent all morning with these people. I am truly upset. I cannot imagine what they've been through. But they all have the same story. They were all within this 1 mile radius and outside of it. They have Norfolk wanting to do tests. And their well water is, all these colors. They're worried. They don't know what it means. What does it mean it smells? What does it mean when I come home I can't breathe? And then the frustration that they just get run around. Every call to every agency leads right back to Norfolk. And I really want to know why they're controlling the narrative. The narrative needs to be this community and what happened to them. They are not stupid. They are not making things up. This is very real to them. And I really hope that everybody will spend time with them and go to their properties, smell it for yourself, experience it for yourself, feel what they're going through. help answer their questions about the kids going back to school. They want to know, should they go back to school? Should they homeschool them? Can they do virtual school? There are people leaving now. There are people terrified to come back. And they're sick. I can't say it on camera, so I'm just not going to do it. I am sickened.
Knowing your experience from years ago.
30 years ago, that's fine. You can date me, 30 years. Been a long time.
You're coming here, your experts are here, other experts are here, the state is here telling us what they're doing. We know there are a multitude of federal class action lawsuits being pursued. You are affiliated with some of that from what we're hearing. How do we know, despite and with respect to all of the experience, that this isn't you trying to convince these folks or whomever that you should be suing Norfolk with us? That this isn't trolling for clients in behalf of whoever you're with?
Sure. That's an actually very fair question, and I understand that. And I think over 30 years, these situations don't happen, and you think the lawyers aren't going to show up. Oh, you bet they're going to show up. But at the same time, these people need to know they have legal rights. They could get totally screwed over further by Norfolk. You mentioned class actions. Listen, I'm not the attorney. I've never worked with an attorney that does class because everybody's damages are seen the same. From my experience with Hinckley and every other environmental issue I've worked on, and I consult with firms, I'm not their employee. I'm not making a bunch of money out of this. These attorneys get upset with each other because they might be missing out on some money, but it's not going to affect me. And by the way, all the money in the world doesn't change anything for these people. Nothing. They've already lost everything. And their future. You really? So what, you're going to have a lawsuit? Yes, the money helps, and I want people to understand that so they can get out of here, because many of them can't afford to do that. I would understand that people might think that I'm that. I've been called that. But after 30 years, I've really shown myself I'm not here for that reason. I'm here for these people.
I'm a resident, 8 houses away from ground zero. And you know, we need all the attention. Don't these people understand
This is
that?
Scott. And I told you in the very beginning, you guys really need to hear from these people.
We rent. So what is our landlord going to think of us? What are we going to do?
Here, come on up.
I mean, I'm out looking for attorneys to go, hey, I need money. No. We just want answers. Just answers. All the citizens here of East Palestine need answers. And we're not getting them.
What is your name, sir?
Scott McAleer, McAleer. And not one senator, governor, EPA, or Norfolk come down our streets. We're just hearing it through you guys and social media. Conflicting stories. We want answers, that's all.
They haven't come to your house?
No, not one.
Door-to-door stop at your house?
Not one. Not even a pamphlet. They're doing it all out here, but you know what? Not at the zone. And that's wrong. So please explain to them to come to our street. My daughter has a rash around her neck, upper cheeks. Call 800 number, call this number, call that number. No good.
And everyone's hired by Norfolk Southern.
Right.
So
And my daughter's...
how does that help us?
My daughter's, you know, hey, she's disability, autistic, Down syndrome. I'm not bringing her out into this media show to take her to my primary. I want them to come to me, but they're not. And it's not fair. Not fair. So I'd rather have everybody here, but you know, I want the answers, that's all. And we're not getting them.
Everybody wants
Everybody
answers.
wants them.
I'm raising 3 granddaughters. They've had rashes. They've been. I'm sorry. I'm raising 3 granddaughters. They've had rashes. They've been sick. Giovanni's daughter has been sick after going to school, and they're trying to force us back into our homes and go to school and say it's all right, but the kids are sick, and I will not tolerate that. We need answers, and we got to get these kids healthy, and if not, get out of town.
What is your name, sir?
Greg Masher, Mascher.
Were you guys all inside the restaurant with Erin and the others?
Yes. Yeah.
And there was no and she wasn't promotion attorneys. She was just gathering information that we're not getting answers to.
So
we want her to speak up like we are now to get answers. That's it.
She's getting our word out there. We just sat around and talked for a while, and it was awesome. I mean, it's just like talking to a friend, and she's not promoting nothing, and we just want to get this taken care of. We want Norfolk Southern to pay and get this done. We love this town. None of us want to leave. I don't want to leave. I've lived here my whole life. This is a third train wreck that I've seen in my lifetime in this town, and it's the worst, and we want to get this done.
Let me ask you this. We talked about, and in fact, Erin mentioned conflicting messages. And so, I mean, we hear what's being said on social media. We hear what's being said by the governor on a daily daily news release with the EPA and federal and state EPA say, whose information do you trust?
I don't trust anybody's right now. None of us know. I've lost 15 pounds because I'm up every night worrying about my granddaughters. Like, what am I exposing them to something that's going to hurt them down the line? I'm 61, I'm not worried about myself, but I worry about them. They're my responsibility, and we got to get answers.
I'm more or less so worried about who's supervising Norfolk Southern. I mean, it's supposed to be the EPA, but when the decisions were made to put a big hole in our town and dump oil in it and whatever else it was, because we really have no idea what it was, whose decision was that? Was Governor DeWine there to ask any questions as to, is this really the best idea? Or was it just Norfolk Southern making all the calls and people just agreeing like puppets? We're not puppets, we're people. We live here. We have families, we have businesses. I have multiple rental properties here, people that I care about. It's not acceptable.
What is your name? Sorry.
Giovanni Irizarry.
You don't need to spell that for us.
Spell it? Giovanni. First name, last name, Irizarry. I-R-I, Z as in zebra, A-R-R-Y.
And how long have you been here, and do you want to stay?
I mean, I've been here since 2018. Honestly, I didn't think much of the community until I got to know people. I mean, I come from like the Youngstown area. It's a little bit busier, a little bit crazier, a little more hectic, a little more something to do. I mean, you come here and it's nice and peaceful and quiet. So until you get out of your shell and meet other people where they are, that's how you meet people like these guys. I just met this gentleman today. I met her today. I know Greg. He's taught my daughter basketball. I mean, it's not just a small hick town where people don't make money, because there's a lot of successful people here that own properties and own assets. And the way they portrayed us on the news in the very beginning, which took like a week, by the way, because we were all hashtagging all of you guys and all the government officials. I mean, it's just crazy. Like, we're not in a third world country. We're in the United States of America. This is sad, very sad.
You bring up a point that you're concerned a lot of the people doing the work are hired by Norfolk Southern.
Yeah.
At the same time, everybody, you four, your U.S. senators and everyone else are saying Norfolk Southern has to pay for all this. So how do you balance making them pay and then not trusting them when they hire people to do the job?
So when this all first started, I hired someone to clean my house. And when I went down there for reimbursement, I was denied reimbursement because I didn't use who they contracted. Shouldn't it be my choice, the people's choice? We're in the United States.
They should pay.
Is it hard to cut a check for a different business other than the one you want me to go to? Come on, it's not hard. I write checks all the time. It's not hard, you know that.
The people that you've met since you've been here since 2018 and you've gotten to know, has it been, as some people mentioned, that they've already moved out? And how is that affecting?
Yeah, there's a lot of people actually that won't come home, and houses are going up for sale. And I mean, I'd imagine some people would move in because it's cheaper real estate. I mean, I don't know. But since we've been from the evacuation to now, we've had many symptoms and like issues and respiratory problems and headaches and fighting vertigo. I mean, I had to fly my mom to California because she couldn't breathe here anymore. I mean, that's not something I need to do. That messes up my whole 10-year plan that I have going on as a 31-year-old person. You know, self-employed, halfway retired. That messes up a lot of things for people. All of this, and no accountability. We're all trying to come together. Thank God we have Erin, because she does help us like try to figure things out that we are bringing to the table to her. And like, we all have different pieces of information, based off of the derailment, you know what I mean, that we're able to kind of piece together as citizens. But why do we have to do that? Where's the EPA? Why aren't they working for us? That's the
Why
question.
are they gathering information from the citizens? So we need an outsider.
But when we ask questions, they're directed not to tell us anything. Right. So we're supposed to feel safe. We're supposed to feel like they're working for us. It's all bullcrap. You guys know this.
Yeah, they're the puppets on the string.
Have you gone to the EPA's new community center?
Why? To get a pamphlet to say, hey, call this number. Hey, get online. Go.
So they're not taking any information from you?
No.
The information they do give is kind of like lies. You mentioned earlier about misinformation, you know, like different information coming out. It went from 4,032 cubic yards of soil. Now it's down to like 3,000, you know, that contaminant soil at ground zero. How do those numbers compel each other? Like, who is holding them accountable? We don't live in a third world country. This shouldn't be this hard. Clean it up. You made a mistake, clean it up. You didn't make one mistake, you made two. You wrecked into us and then you blew us up. Clean it up.
I went down there Monday between the bar and the gas station. There's a pile of contaminated soil covered up. Why? Why ain't it in somewhere and out of here already?
Why are those lids open if they're vacuuming up bad water? Anyone see that?
Questions.
Anyone notice that?
Not answers.
Those lids are wide open for everyone to consume. But we're told everything's fine and everything's in order. It's not in order, guys. You know this. Come on.
We're just political little pawns here. That's all. We're at a stalemate. But that's all we're getting. Numbers. It's a shit show. You know, it is a circus, just like they had the town hall meeting. People yelling over people. We couldn't get answers because people kept yelling. But hey, I'm just a little pissant, little town, you know, with no answers. Worried about my future and my stepkid's future and my fiance. So come on, really. But anyway, I mean, I appreciate it.
Yeah, it said only me up here.
That's who you should be talking to, the citizens. Reach out to people on Alice Street, Taggart Street, South Market Street. They're the people you need to hear from, not your politicians. There's your story. The people are the citizens of East Palestine, not the mayor, the governor, the senators, which they're a crock of shit. They're in meetings, but we don't take president. We're the constituents. 90% of the votes come out of here for Vance. But, you know, I appreciate, you know, Johnson for being here every day and taking control of the situation. But everything else need to talk to the people of East Palestine. Not these conference meetings and just getting stories. Get our stories, not their stories. Please.
And thanks for the tough questions, because I did physically walk over to the tanks and see the hatches are open on all of them, and they're not vacuuming anything off, and then I retraced the pipes. So don't trust anyone, including me, because I didn't trust myself, and I went down there and looked, and the lids are open on all 4 of those tanks. They're not even in service.
There you have it.
All right, everyone, thank you so much for coming. I know we ran a little bit long. Thank you to Erin for spending a lot of time with us. We are going to, I know Bob is going to go over and look at some stuff over here. I do think Erin needs to go, but I'll see what we can do. If we can do a walk and talk type thing. But now would be a good time too.
With the V, I always try to
get the mic.
5944.
5944.
I think we talked before. We have over at the park. I remember that. Yes.
You text me.
Excuse me.
Either way, we'll see.
My number is
Okay.
330. 853.
I have leather. Okay. I'll see you guys in a little while.
All right, guys.
Can I grab your number?
Yeah.
Bye, Scott. Bye,
Bye,
Aaron.
Aaron. Thank you again for everything. Look.
Excuse me. Sorry. Gregory?
But it's everybody out here. Everybody out here. I want everybody to put it down below.
Yeah, give me a buzz. Thank you. How are
The deadline to kind of get everything done says that. I think we got everything because you're rolling on the whole country. Yeah, I think we got what we need. Yeah. There wouldn't be anything else you could give.
Oh. Excuse me, guys, our cable's crossed.
Alright, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna start. Yeah. But I'd like to actually like go.
Conference is all done. Thank you.